Are cruise ships really a safe place to travel? It's filled with laughter, games, music, an abundance of food, and plenty of happy couples. However, since the year 2000, over 400 people have been lost on cruise ships. 165 of them declared missing without much more being known. Are they really a safe style of travel? Let's explore more of this and share 3 stories of people who got onto a cruise ship but met a dark and unsettling event. However, only 2 of these stories are based on truth. 1 is based on fiction. Let's see if you can separate the truth from the lie. Story number 1, potential cover-up. Just imagine being on a massive boat the size of an apartment complex, enjoying the peace and quiet at night, listening to the faint sounds of the waves, the gentle whistle of the wind, which leaves a refreshing, cool breeze on your face. You can't see much beyond the deck, but that's okay. It feels like total tranquility. Now imagine the ship suddenly rocks violently and you are hurled over the side, falling below into the frigidly cold water. No one saw you. You were alone. You come to the surface only to see the massive vessel, the only artificial light source, coming in and out of view as multiple waves come crashing down on you. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You don't know if it will turn around. You know it won't turn around. You have no place to go. You know you will never see your loved ones again. You know this is how you die. According to Disney, this was the fate of a young woman, a woman we will name Monica. However, many believe that this is not what happened to Monica. Many believe that Disney is lying, trying to cover up the truth. Let's see what you think. Monica, born in 1987 in the UK, grew up with a Catholic family, and she joined the army in her teens and attended university to study sports science. She was a bright young woman who had many aspirations in life. As well, she was described as being incredibly fun, optimistic, and kind. This led to her getting a job with Disney on a cruise ship. The name of the ship was called Disney Wonder. It would take months of training, but in 2010, she would start her job as a youth worker on the cruise ship. In March of 2011, the cruise ship left Los Angeles. She had messaged her family on Facebook saying that she would call the very next day. Her mother claimed to be concerned when that call never came. On top of that, she didn't report for the start of her shift at 9 a.m. They made calls over the PA system, ended up searching the main hangout areas on the ship as well as her room, but she was nowhere to be found. They then made their way to CCTV, as there were cameras all over the boat. It didn't take long before Monica was found. At 5:45 a.m. that morning, she was seen talking on the phone, seeming very distressed. A man was also seen walking up to her. This man was found, and he said he only asked if she was okay, to which she said yes. She was then seen walking off camera, never to be seen again. A detective was flown to the ship and a full investigation was launched. Days after, when the ship was docked, the family spoke with the captain himself. After giving them his condolences, they said they knew what happened. They claimed that the boat was hit with a rogue wave, which is a wave that is formed when 2 smaller waves join together, meaning that it can happen without warning. This rogue wave crashed into the boat, and Monica, who was reported to be standing by the crew pool, was launched overboard. That was it. Case closed, according to Disney. Just a tragic accident that took this 24-year-old girl's life. However, months after this accident took place, a journalist who believed that there was more to this story took a journey on the ship himself. and he interviewed several employees who were working back when Monica went missing. Some of the employees, who wanted their names to be unknown, simply stated that this is what Disney wanted me to say, and that they know exactly what happened. The journalist then was able to visit the crew pool, and immediately doubted the report that Monica accidentally fell overboard, mainly because the railing was very high, too high to even see over. How could someone accidentally fall over this? On top of that, Disney reported that one of Monica's slippers was found on the deck by the crew pool. But the family and friends of Monica said not only would she never wear that style, but it wasn't even the right size. This slipper later was reported to have another crew's name on it, but that is not 100% confirmed. Also, it was reported that the sea was completely calm that day. No reports of waves large enough to rock a cruise ship so violently to throw someone overboard. Most compelling was, why wasn't this event recorded? There were cameras everywhere in this area, yet somehow this event slipped between the camera's views. Surely one would have caught her in this area, but according to Disney, they did not. So, if this case sounds like a cover-up, what really happened? Some believe that Monica was murdered, potentially even sexually assaulted, and her body was thrown overboard, and Disney wanted to cover this up to avoid bad press. But they know the truth about what really happened to her. Apparently, the family of Monica is told that this case is still ongoing. But whenever they try to reach out, they strongly believe they're being lied to. Sadly, we may never know what really happened on that fateful night in 2011. Story number 2. How long did she live? Brody and Kayla were a couple on their honeymoon. They went back and forth about what kind of cruise to take. Sometimes they looked at ones that venture into the Scandinavian countries. Other times they looked at Caribbean cruises visiting countries in Central America. In the end, they both picked the Mediterranean cruise that would visit Spain, France, Italy, and Morocco. It perfectly combined the two's interests. Kayla being more into gorgeous beaches and warm weather, and Brody being more interested in history and fine foods. So, in 2006, the American couple flew off to France, where the cruise ship would start its journey. This decision would be one that one of the two would go over and over in their head. Brody and Kayla, both born in 1978, were newlyweds celebrating their marriage in their late 20s, but they were not newly together. The two were high school sweethearts. However, according to many who knew the two well, they claimed their relationship was not always one people believed would lead to them tying the knot. Family of Kayla's claimed that she would often come home crying in her teens and even into her early 20s, claiming that Brody got really drunk and, in their daughter's words, became a different person. It's not clear if he just got really angry or if he ever actually physically abused Kayla. The two were on and off throughout a good deal of their 20s. Many were unsure why Kayla kept going back to Brody. When the two were 24, Brody proposed, but he did not get the answer that he was looking for. Kayla actually turned him down. His drinking issues were no different now than they were before. She gave him an ultimatum: go to rehab, join AA, do whatever it takes to quit drinking. She had given him chances like this before, but he always stormed off. But this time, to Kayla's surprise, he agreed. In 2003, Brody vowed to quit drinking forever, and even to his family's surprise, he was sticking to it. He always said that he wanted Kayla to be his wife, and if this is what it takes, this is what he will do. Kayla started to see him as a new man, and in 2005, when Brody proposed again, she said yes. Even this decision was met with some resentment from her family and friends, but Kayla swore he was a changed man. In 2006, they got married and wasted no time in booking their honeymoon. The 14-day cruise through the Mediterranean Sea. Reports from other passengers on the boat and crew members mostly shared the same thoughts. The couple seemed happy in public, laughing, holding hands, spending all their time together. However, at night, back in their room, people say it was a different story. One neighboring room claimed to hear screaming matches almost every single night, but it was too muffled to fully understand what they were fighting about. Kayla's parents, who were in touch with her, said she claimed everything was going well. On the 7th day of the cruise, Kayla's mother became worried when she never heard from her daughter. She was checking in with her every day on Facebook. The entire day passed and nothing. When the next day came and still no word from Kayla, she managed to get a hold of the cruise ship itself, and to her surprise, the ship was already on full alert. The night prior, Kayla was reported missing by Brody. According to Brody, on the 7th night of the cruise, he went to sleep first. She stayed up a bit and looked out the balcony. It was roughly 2 a.m. when Brody went to sleep and noted Kayla was still standing on the balcony. When he woke up at roughly 7 a.m., she was no longer in the room. He went looking at all the common areas, which is proved through CCTV footage, but she was nowhere to be seen. No one had seen her, and he reported her to the staff that his wife was missing. At this point of the cruise, they were far out at sea. If someone had fallen over, there would be no chance for survival. A thorough search of the ship didn't find anything. The doors to the rooms would show on record if someone came in, but not if someone left. Still, when investigators showed up later that day, they saw something on CCTV that gave them a suspect. On the night Kayla and Brody went to their room, the last time that Kayla was seen, the two were seen at the bar. Brody had been drinking again. This likely was what the two were fighting about. They immediately turned their attention to him, believing that he threw her overboard in a fit of rage, especially upon learning that he was a recovering alcoholic. Brody swore he didn't throw his wife overboard. He begged them to send search units out. This part of the sea had many little deserted islands nearby, and Kayla was a very strong swimmer. But the investigation was solely focused on him. Police didn't believe him, and Brody was arrested and charged with her murder. Using testimony from the neighbors of their fights at night, CCTV footage of Brody drinking again, and Kayla's parents sharing stories about Brody's past, it didn't take long for the jury to convict him, even with no body found. Brody claimed that they were both drinking that night, and perhaps she fell off the balcony in a drunken accident. Nevertheless, Brody was sentenced to life in prison in 2009. This story could easily end here, but Brody, he's not in jail anymore. In 2015, he got out. That's because a shocking twist to this story happened years after her alleged murder. In 2015, a fishing crew went to the shore on a small, deserted island, only going there to take a break and enjoy the view, something they did on various islands quite often. However, this one time, they came across something that haunted the two fishermen. They came across a corpse. It was just sitting there on the beach. It was so decomposed and picked at by small animals, they didn't even know if it was male or female. They reported it, and DNA evidence revealed a shocking revelation. It was Kayla, the woman who had gone missing 9 years prior, believed to have been murdered by her then husband. Brody was right. They should have searched the surrounding islands. This particular one was less than a mile from the cruise ship's line. Kayla had managed to swim to shore, hoping that she would have been rescued. They never could determine exactly how she passed away, or how long she actually survived on this small island for. But if the investigation did a better job, she may have been found and still be alive today. Brody was released, and apparently has since remarried. Story number 3. What really happened? If I told you a story about a woman who went missing on a cruise ship, well, of course it would be sad. You may not necessarily think it's a big mystery. It's a cruise ship, a giant boat that's at sea. However, the story that I'm going to tell you, it has one big factor that's different. The woman who went missing on this particular cruise ship, this took place when the ship was docked, not at sea. The woman, who we will call Sarah, in 1998 was on a cruise ship with her family in the Caribbean Sea. She was a 23-year-old university student when this incident took place. She wanted to celebrate graduating with her degree in physical education by joining her family. Her and her brother decided to go to a Mardi Gras party and drank with the band playing that night, staying up until the early morning. The records of the ship show that Sarah's brother entered the room at 3:35 a.m., and Sarah followed only 5 minutes later. They spoke for a bit before the brother said he crashed for the night. Sarah still stood on the balcony of the ship. He said he believed she crashed shortly after, but at 6 a.m. later that morning, when the father came to check on them, he said that Sarah was not in her room. He could not find her anywhere, and the brother had no idea where she went. Despite the family's wishes for the cruise ship, they still allowed people to leave at 7:50 a.m. that morning. But they did start to conduct a search of the ship around noon, as well as the Coast Guard conducting a search of the surrounding waters. The search from the Coast Guard would last for the next 4 days, but nothing came up. Sarah was in her room between 3:30 a.m. and 4 a.m., but by 6 a.m. she was nowhere to be found. Despite the cruise ship being docked, people still believe that one of 3 things happened to Sarah. She was either pushed overboard, committed suicide, or fell. Many people dismiss this idea immediately. Sarah was a lifeguard and therefore a very strong swimmer, and the ship being docked meant that she would have no problem swimming to safety. However, others argued that if she had been injured or murdered before being thrown, or if her intention was to end her own life, then swimming to safety may not have happened. Over the course of the next several months, people argued over which theory may have been true. Her family, however, still believed that she was alive. They never gave up hope that they would one day see Sarah again. This story could have ended here, and some believe it does. Sarah likely perished in 1998, and hopefully one day her body will be recovered. However, something happened months after her disappearance, 5 months to be exact. And that sent Sarah's family and anyone else who had interest in this case in a flurry of wanting answers. In August of 1998, a woman who matched Sarah's description was seen walking with 2 men in Curaçao, the island that the cruise ship was docked at 5 months earlier. According to the man, this woman didn't just match Sarah's description, he was positive it was her, even down to the tattoos the woman had. He claimed the woman seemed very uncomfortable and had been trying to get his attention until he lost sight of her. Sightings didn't end here. In 1999, a Navy officer had visited a brothel and saw a woman who flat out claimed to be Sarah, who had been missing for almost a year. The naval officer, however, he didn't report it due to the fear that he would lose his job for visiting a brothel. One last sighting in 2005, now 7 years after, a woman claimed she saw someone matching Sarah's description in a department store, now in Barbados. The woman was forcefully being told what to do by 3 other men. None of these sightings ever proved to be the real Sarah. People speculated that the woman in the brothel, the most compelling of the 3, lied about her name in the hopes of being rescued, potentially hearing about this disappearance on the news. Sadly, Sarah was declared deceased in 2010, 12 years after her disappearance. No body has ever been found. Her family still holds hope that she is alive and one day they will be reunited. If still alive, Sarah would be 48 years old at the time I am writing this. If you have any info on her disappearance, please contact your local authorities. So that concludes our final story. Which one do you think is false? Story number 1. Would a company like Disney really potentially cover up a murder on one of their cruise ships? Or 2. The couple on their honeymoon with the wife disappearing and her husband taking the blame for her disappearance. Maybe 3. A woman somehow vanishing on a docked ship, only to have multiple reports of her still being alive in the years that followed. Let's start with story number 1. The story of Monica accidentally falling overboard on a Disney cruise, according to Disney, is not one I made up. It is completely true. Her real name is Rebecca Corium. It baffled many when this case happened. 1 year after Rebecca disappeared, her family received an email claiming they saw Rebecca with another man in Venice. But this was never confirmed. Is she still out there, or did Disney cover up a murder? Maybe it was in fact an accident. Hopefully, for her family's sake, they will one day find out the truth. Now, let's skip to story number 3. In 1998, Amy Lynn Bradley was reported missing by her father at 6 a.m. in March. That means that this story is also completely true. People who know this case continue to be conflicted about what really happened. Did she pass away on the day she vanished? Or was she sold as a sex slave? And is she still alive today? Hopefully one day, her family will learn the truth. That means that story number 2, it's based on pure fiction. Did you guess the right answer? Let me know in the comments, and please stay tuned for more videos. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.